What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of Water for the Thirsty. The word simply refreshing. It dawned on me as I was creating the link for the show um, that we are at episode 19 of 24 for the year 10, which means we, almost done with our 10th year. So,
Wow.
wow. It feels like we just started it, right? 19 episodes later, here we are.
Flying, flying.
Man. So, yeah. With that being said, we have been in the books of Mark and the story of David and Saul and their fun relationship through Samuel and Chronicles. And then, of course, we continue to read Kenrick's favorite book, which is now Sharika's favorite book. So, because she's preferring it over Chronicles, which is interesting to say the least. So that's
No, I was preferring it over genealogy.
oh, okay, okay, okay. I received that. I received that. Thank you for the clarification. Oh, I did have a little thing that I wanted to point out, an observation that I made and a question that came out of it before I defer to Bishop for a handful of things that she may have there. Um, Coming out of First Samuel 16, as I was reading First Samuel 16 and 17, which is the story of when Samuel goes to look for David to anoint him, and the Lord sent him, and the 6 or 7 brothers came out, and he's like, "Is there another one?" And the Bible goes out of its way to show that David was the last child and had a set of older brothers who were in the army, and he was home minding the sheep. And the way the story is told, the father sends him on a mission to go and look after for to go and send some stuff for the brothers. And the brothers appear, and the way they speak to him to kind of boss him around, right? And then one of the stories in there shows him under the tutelage of Saul because he becomes the person who plays music for him when he gets upset. Now, there's 2 stories are not related; they're told in sequence. I'm not sure what's the order because it seems a little confusing. But here you have David for much of his life under the authority of a whole lot of people. And I was wondering, I wonder how much that played a part in him being so submissive to God, that he was already in that submissive posture, right? Like he was the little brother. So, he was accustomed to following orders, taking direction, being respectful of elders, having all these lords, so to speak, over him. When he was serving Saul, same thing. Um, I was just curious, like, how much that impacted. So it made me think about Saul and where Saul was, and if that was a truism that I could even consider. And I discovered that Saul was the only child. The Bible does not speak about Saul having any brothers. He only had his father. And when I started searching up family trees for Saul, lineages and whatnot, every family tree had Kish and Saul. And I wondered how much of Saul's shift and his contrasted posture to David was as a result of being an only child. That level of entitlement that only children not all of them do, but may have, because they don't have that dynamic. And of course, he was taller than everybody and good looking, according to what the Bible say. But that kind of, I'm gonna do what I want. I wonder how much that played. That made me then think, how much do you think your experience with authority impacts the way you see and view and relate to God?
I think it can go both ways, though. I mean, I think that, you know, I think given, I think a lot of different narratives could have been created, right, for David. Not necessarily saying that you're not onto something. I guess, David could have been, you know, tired of authority, frustrated with authority, and been like, you know, I'm not doing this anymore, right? I'm now king. I can do what I want to do. and whatnot. So I'm not sure. There may be a correlation.
Mm.
I don't know if they're necessarily, you know, there could be.
All right, let me ask it this
It's
way.
it's interesting.
Yeah. But I was now going from, yeah, I don't know about Saul and David. I just, make those things. But it then makes me wonder about my relationship to authority and the dynamics of that and how I relate to God. My, I've mentioned the whole, my mother had the biggest breast in the house. So I was always in that, whatever you say, I'm going to just do what you say type thing. And so I started to realize that I was transferred, I was relating to God in a similar kind of manner. But I even mentioned that a couple of weeks ago that I've been wondering, when do I grow up and become independent from God too, you know, um, and so it just made me wonder if you guys see your relationships with God as and His authority and the influence of His authority, or how you interact with His authority. If you see any connections to your own life experiences. That's really what I was doing, because I saw
Probably
it for
got
me.
you.
So I was just
Hallelujah.
Got you.
tell me more, Jerry.
Yeah, because I think generally too, at least in my experience too, you can't operate in an authority or power that you don't first submit to, right? And I've found that um, the better I was at submitting to authority, makes sense. So there's instruction, there's no explanation, there's no broader plan, no context, no nothing. It just do this, thanks. And some of the most, uh, what do I want to say, boy? Some of the best experiences or outcomes have come from those situations. Wasn't clear on the path other than do this one thing. And he allowed situations and circumstances to help me or get the hang of it. So it was easier to do it to him. And then, of course, in doing it for him, it then made it easier for me to submit to
Hmm.
authority, even in my work life or other things, right?
Mm. So I'm now thinking about Pharaoh and God's choice of that Pharaoh, right? He's like, I chose this one for this time because of who he was. You think about who his life was and his family dynamic. He had something to prove too, you know, which would then harden him against God when God shows up, right?
Sure.
Uh,
I
Moses.
think for me, I wouldn't say it. I can't think of anything specifically. Um, Growing up in Western society, you're not really the submissive aspect isn't really communicated. It's probably the exact opposite. You're supposed to fight for what's yours and not yours. And you know, being submissive is weak. Um, you take what's rightfully yours. Um, and so I think growing up, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the way I was raised, but I don't think I was raised to be submissive either. And so I wasn't raised to be like a tyrant, but um, I think when I think about just growing up, it wasn't it wasn't submissiveness. I think that was something that was probably learned from from. I mean, I don't think I ever really started thinking about it until we started doing Water for the Thirsty.
So tell me more about the new journey that you're on and God being a provider and how that relates to what you're describing. Does it have a connection, a relation in terms of, fight for what you have? You're not really taught to be submissive. God is there, but Is there a connection there, or am I reading too much into it?
No, I think that's where God wants all of us, right? I think over the years we've seen the connection. Um, I think you probably draw a line, you know, between each of these quote unquote heroes of the Bible, and you see a level of submissiveness in all of them, to the will of God. So I think that's where He wants us, and I think He's definitely been pushing me there. Um, I was just telling me and Joel were just talking a couple hours ago about it, and just on the journey that we've been on for the past year, couple years, and it was really that, and it's really just getting to the point where we recognize that he is the provider. He is it. He is the source, and we do have a responsibility, but our responsibility is not providing. Um, and that submissive nature is what he's looking for from us. But so that
Do
was
you
that
think
was
that
that was definitely learned.
transition? So that transition is now happening, and how much of the your upbringing contributed to that not being your default posture and being a lesson that you're learning now?
How much of my upbringing?
Or your Western core orientation, as you pointed out?
Yeah, I think so. I will say I think it was probably demonstrated by my parents, right? Probably my mother more so than my dad. Um, but definitely she's not a submissive woman, but I did see her definitely making very conscious, intentional decision to lead and move, right? So that could have also contributed to it, subconsciously, or just seeing it, being exposed to it. Um, but ultimately, I think it was just a journey over time, realizing that you can push on as many doors as you want to. You can do all this, and it's for me, at some point it just became common sense. It was like, I didn't create this person, you did. So I I'll I'll give that person to you. You figure that out, and then let me know what I need to do after that.
All right. I was thinking about when I was small, I had to do what my mother said because she knew what was best, despite how I felt. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want it to go this way or whatever, for a number of things. But it ended up working out, and so, you know, all right, that was a good decision. And I think that kind of influenced how I, started relating to God. I do it because it makes sense. He knows better, and I just follow where he leads. But I never made the connection between those things until I started looking at, David being an only child and wondering how much of his being a man after God's own heart was because he was the last child. You know,
Hmm.
in contrast to when he chose Saul and Saul made the switch, like David's likelihood to switch may not have been as, you know, um, readily, evident as was with Saul. So I was just, thinking about that. Courtney, any relationship between how you interact with God and um, anything that may have happened as you was growing up? Any posture that you have with God that you could see, hey, this might be because of this thing.
Yeah, I think so. Think before before I talk about me, I was looking at the chapter 16, and thought it was interesting in verse 7, when it just talks about the Lord doesn't look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. While we were kind of talking, I was doing a little research, and it seems as though um, that David might have let me see if I find it again. He might have been quoting a lot of times uh, where he essentially learned a lot of this of his belief system was around his mother. Um,
Mm.
so I could kind of relate to that a lot with because I think about my like I think my grandfather was he was more like the enforcer with a lot of the spiritual aspects of things. But kind of, so like what Kendrick was talking about is like there's a sort of a more personal approach that my grandmother took and even my mother took about talking about themselves serving God, why they did things, you know, along with telling you that or telling me, hey, you have to do this, this, and the fifth. It's like uh, I also don't do what I want when I want, you know, I'm also being obedient uh, to God by XYZ, this is why I'm doing this or doing that or whatever the case is. So that was something interesting that I saw. Dang, where did I'm sorry, I literally had it opened up here. And then for them, in terms of family wise, my grandmother was the firstborn, my mother was the firstborn, I was the firstborn. So I don't know if there's like a lot of, I guess I'd have to ask my brother about that. If what does it feel like to be the youngest in authority? I'm sure there's something there with that, but for me, it's more like that just came with it. Like you're firstborn, you're supposed to be on point because everybody's looking at what you're doing, you know. Um, oh, so here we go. Psalms 86:16. Uh, it reads, "Oh, turn to me and have mercy on me. Give me your strength to your servant and save the son of your maidservant." And then another time in Psalms chapter 116, verse 16, it says, "O Lord, truly I am your servant. I am your servant, the son of your maidservant. You have loosed my bonds." So I think it's interesting. It seems like he's probably referring to his mother as that maidservant.
Mhm.
So uh just to kind of again point to what Kendrick was kind of talking about, it's like maybe a lot of that devotion and that kind of that heart that he has that is talked about was really built on by the walk of his mother probably because he
Mm.
didn't really mention his dad like that, and those are just two verses that mention her that way. So
Mhm.
maybe that could be
So,
different why, you know, maybe his brothers and him are a little different, like
no, that's good. That's good. I just,
Is
we
anybody
read
here
these
an only
Bible.
child?
who.
Is anybody here an only child? No.
Oh no, not
Mm.
me.
Yeah, I guess part of it is, you read these Bible stories, and sometimes the people don't seem like real people, and you don't realize how much who they are is being leveraged by God, or used by God to, impact how they react, or how we anticipate them to react, how we can use them, or what makes them useful to whatever cause He's bringing. Because
Mm-hmm.
even the Bible talks about Him being up. How can the clay tell the potter how to use them? Some things are made for refuse. You will make a good trash can. you know, and I need a trash can because trash cans are useful in the house. You know what I'm saying? But the question that we're responding to is, I discovered that. Well, I didn't discover. We all know that David is the only child, but I discovered that no, sorry, David is the last child, but I discovered that Saul is an only child, and I was wondering if their posture towards God, how much of that was influenced by those experiences. And then I was reflecting, if that may be true for them, the question to you now is, Lorraine, how much of your posture to God is connected to any of the experiences that you had? So far, Jerry is gone, and Kenrick is gone, and Courtney is gone, but you get to go next.
I would say all of it.
Tell me more.
So like and not having a father. Um, well, I had him earlier on in my life when I was a really young child. And then he was not in the picture for various reasons. Um, and I found myself like constantly looking for that. Of course, him specifically, but so like when I grew to understand, or as I was growing in my understanding of God, my perception of him was like a father figure,
Mm.
right? Wanting protection, and those kinds of things. Um, but on the other side, like there's all those also the experience of cultural experiences of you get praised for perfection or performance, right? And so it's sometimes hard for me to believe that I don't have to check all the boxes. Like, and so it's like this, like, it can't be that simple. Like, and so like I would beat up on myself for making a mistake or doing something I shouldn't do, or, and I'm like, there's no way, like, he's probably scowling at me. You know what I'm saying? Like that same judgment or that same, you better, like I'm waiting for the whooping to come around the corner. And when stuff happens and when bad or challenging things happen, my initial thought, even though I work my way through it and come to a different conclusion, my initial thought tends to majority of the time be I'm being punished for something. There's something I didn't do. There's something I should have done. There's something and then also another thing I could think of is the women in my family, they've had to do things without men, right?
Mm.
And so I find it's hard, like I have to control everything. Like if it's got to get done, I got to do it. And so it's like I'm always on that setting. And so like even now, I've not done the best job of observing the Sabbath. And one of the hard things is like God was talking to me about it last week, where I was impressed that I need to do better regarding that. But it's the control thing because it's like I have so many things to do and I'm the only one to do it. And so it's like, yeah, but I want you to rest. And it's like, yeah, but when I don't do it, it don't get done. I don't know what you want from me. It's like I only got 2 days off of work. So everything, school, everything is on me and it's a lot. And it's like, and you want me to do what? Like, I believe you're good and strong and everything, but you can't write these papers. And so it's like it's like that's why I say all of it because like those are ingrained things in me. So it's like I want the protection, I want the rest, I do want the rest, but it's like if I rest, everything fails. So it's like I have that like back and forth because it's on me to do it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, those are just things like I think of.
As you were talking there, I was like, just as you were talking and adding support to the idea by sharing your experience, I was like, I always thought David was just a man after God's own heart, and he really could have just been a man after God's own heart because he was socialized into being respectful. I never thought of how simple it could be that, yeah, you would make a good candidate because you've learned to be respectful. And the amount of time you spend out there with them sheep by yourself, you all right, I could use you. And it wasn't just something that was innate in him, but it was something that he was built in. It could be that it was something he was built into. And so that was just, another thought I was having. Bishop, how about you? Any connections for you, or you just outside the mall over there somewhere?
I think I wasn't really didn't join any kind of real church until my pre-teens ish. So I can't really say, the early molding years were like based on anything outside of, there's always hierarchy. In a West Indian household, there's always hierarchy. I think also,
Is that why you talk about God the Father and try to
definitely,
distinguish between who is who?
definitely, because they're not equal, right? And I've always been told, me and my mother not equal. She tells me that all the time. Um, but I think I never questioned, and I had to think about this a lot, but I never questioned if my parents would do something. It was, will they do it? And I think that's my approach to God. I don't question that he can. That's not up for discussion. Will he? That's really what I care about. Um, to this day, like when people are like, oh, you have to have faith. The fact that I expect is that I have faith. I expect these things from these people. I expect it from my mom, my dad, my brother. Those are the people that I have the most expectations for because I know what they can do. Um, so yeah, I don't. I think when it comes to my friendships and relationships, maybe this is where I live on the peninsula still. I don't expect you to do
I
anything.
like that peninsula. You're not fully disconnected. It's not a
Not fully, you can still come over. I can lift my bridge up maybe, but I'm there. I don't expect these things. Um, and then when I do have expectations and you fail them, that's where life gets real difficult. That's when I start to look at you real different because it's just like, I seldom expect things from people, and here we are.
Mm.
But yeah, as it concerns God, it's never been an if, it's a will. Will you do it? Because I don't. David has an interesting relationship where David kind of demands that he does it. And I think
As a last child, you just ask, right?
right, like, but I also think he was spoiled in that David comes off like the spoiled kid. Like, you're with the sheep, you're protected from this, you're the handsome one, you're pretty timid. It is what it is. It feels very sheltered to me. But as you grow, and as we even read in Psalm a couple weeks ago, he had expectations that he demanded. Right. So I wonder if, now that you've mentioned it, if the demands and the expectations are what make him after God's own heart, because God demands and expects things from us.
Oh, that's a good question. For Batman, the question, I can't give you a question without the context because if I just ask the question, it would seem real random. So as I was reading about David, I of course realized he was an only child, or the last child, and I wondered how much of his having a heart after God was because he was a last child. He was cultured and socialized into a respectful posture. I just looked at how he navigated the spaces there, and then he went and served under Saul, and he just had that subservient type posture by virtue of his position in life and the experiences that he was having. So it made me wonder about where Saul was, because he had this "I have to take care of it" type posture. When you look at his choices that got him rejected, there was "I'm not responsible for this. I have to take care of it" um, type attitude. And I was just curious as to is there something to this David being a last child thing? And what I found is that Saul was an only child. And I'm curious about how much of that contrast between David and Saul that the author of Samuel goes to lengths to make, how much of that is influenced by that kind of upbringing. And that then led me to how much of my interaction with God is, and my posture towards him and my positioning with him is related to my experiences with authority. And so I put that question out there: how much of the way you see, view, interact, navigate the space with God is tied to or related to or influenced by your relationships with authority growing up, whatever the authorities there were in your life. And so we were going around sharing those. I hope that answers the question. Shrika, did you have anything else there? Because I know I kind of cut in to answer the question.
No, I think that was just my question. The more we dig into it, it's like, what part of him makes him a man of God's own heart?
I would say my assumption was the submission piece, but you have a good angle there as well. It might be more than just that.
Yeah, I always
There's
thought about it
something
from a
else.
submission standpoint too.
Go ahead, Jerry. Is he freezing or no longer
There's
talking?
something else I was looking at too as
He's
Now we are, yes.
okay. Might be just a connection thing. As Shrika was talking about, it's a last child thing, right? The last child tends to be a little bit entitled. And you've had kids before me, you know how this thing works, you know how, you know. So there's that side of it. Just as he kind of felt like, well, pretty much I should be able to get anything I want. But on the flip side of that, or the myth, the illusion of control long before Saul did. So he realized, you know what, I don't actually have control. What I have is responsibility. And I have a responsibility to take care of, you know, whatever God has put me here to do and this nation and all those things. Saul was still living under this idea that, yeah, I'm running the show, I'm in control, I need to handle this way. One of the big things that made David a man after God's heart, he wasn't in God's way or trying to control, you know, what God was trying to get done. Whereas Saul was still like, yeah, you even see it when they're confronted, right? David asked God not to take his spirit from him. Saul didn't want God to take the kingdom from him. He still wanted to, I've sinned against you, but can I still be in control?
Yeah. I'd be interested if there any people who have only child experience who could validate or invalidate our speculation about Saul, who might be online. You know, you can just hit us in the chat, or maybe even come, you know, hit us in the chat, and we have you come on. If you could, you know, if you can't just do it in the chat, I would like to, you know, I'd be interested to hear more about that.
So
Yeah.
I can say, so part of the conversation me and Jewel were having. So we're here, and we're looking for a larger flat here in Spain, and um, and it's first world problems. Like, you know, we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath because we're thinking that we're gonna be here for a short period of time, and the girls don't want to share a bathroom. So, um, so we went and looked at a place yesterday. I didn't really like it. The girl, we all had like our issues. There were some things we liked. There's some things we didn't like. But Jewel's an only child, and Jewel is a. I shouldn't say that. Jewel's not an only child, but she grew up as an only child.
Okay.
Today, I'm sitting here, and so we're going back and forth, and I'm just like, you know, it's like, yo, like, we've been here, like, there's nothing that we've had or done or experienced here that God hasn't worked out, and we've been fine. From visas to all this other stuff, like just in time, whatever it was, it all worked out. I was like, so gotta work it out. Like, I don't think you know, I don't want to, and maybe this is presumptuous. I was like, I don't think he'll put us in a place where we are like all like don't want to be. Maybe he will, but I'm just like, you know, we're all like,
That's
we
unlikely.
don't like it. And so she walks out today. She was like, I just need to get out the way. She was like, I just need to leave it alone, because she keeps trying to figure it out and make it work. And I can do this, and I can make this, I can figure this out, and you know, I can find it, and I keep looking. If I look hard enough, like, I will get it. And finally today, this evening, she was like, I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not gonna leave it alone. I'm not gonna. And so I think that, you know, part of the growing up as an only child is that, you know, only child and only girl, is that Jewel is catered to. She gets what she wants, and not negatively, like not spoiled, but like, you know, she just, you know, everybody kind of hovers around Jewel and make sure and she's she demands it. Like she talks about like I like this and I like this and I like this and so for her to kind of have to step back and be like, you know what, and to be able to acknowledge it and say, I gotta let this go. There's I can go out there and try to find it. If I believe in God and I believe that He knows what we want. He knows that we know. He knows that He knows what we want. He knows what we desire. And every step of the way, He has provided for us in all these different ways. Then at some point, I just have to just trust that He's going to do it. And so I think that is some of the only child kind of thing that she's kind of wrestling with and figuring out.
Right.
Also, this thing is just human nature too. Yeah.
Correct. Of course. Just the way we are shaped is, I think a factor of environment, and I think we don't give it as much attention or credit, and maybe there's more to it because it helped us to, as you pointed out with Jewel. I like that you brought that with Jewel. If we could identify it, we could address it and deal with it. And we could understand what needs to happen to do better. If we could give it a name, so to speak, or at least identify the dynamic and what might be generating it, for good or for evil. I'm gonna pull this comment in from Batman. Says, I relate by virtue that I have to do it because no one else will. Being a protector and surveilling the night, my understanding is to do and then ask for help. Although I did get a strange invitation to join a group of individuals who appear.
I'm finished. Not the Justice League.
Ooh, I was like, whoa. I wasn't sure where I was.
The Justice League.
I might just check them out. They appear to stand for justice.
The Justice League. Shout out to my man Flash when you see him, my guy. You really read that in a serious tone. You ain't know where that was going.
That's good. That's good.
I just hope that Batman and DC understands when Gotham lights up tonight, you're on call.
Yeah.
Because
blue and orange skies, folks.
Because it will light up.
So yeah, that was just my little reflection there. I didn't have anything majorly earth-shattering. Just it was more of a reflection on me. Hey, why am I relating to God like this? And does it have anything to do with this thing? And yeah, it does. So now what does that mean for me? It's kind of where I was, and I was curious as to whether I was only experiencing it by myself or others were experiencing it as well. So thank you for sharing and contributing and indulging me in that line and train of thought.
No, it's interesting.
You had anything there for us today?
Oh, the Rain's got something.
Not today.
All right, I'm gonna come back to the Bishop then. Bishop, talk to me. What we got?
I had a couple things, just general thoughts. I don't know why this time around, Jonathan and David's friendship just really spoke to my heart in a way that it was just like, yo, these people really looked out for each other. Jonathan was willing to trade in his own family to preserve his friend.
Yes.
And I don't know if we do friendship like that anymore. And I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. I just know I don't know if we do it like that anymore. Even when my brother and I were talking about him and the bow and arrow, and he's talking to his guy, he's like, if I just tell him, hey, that went way out there, it's like, yeah, keep it going, right? It's close enough, he really was willing to risk himself, his family, and everything in the name of his friend. And it feels like when God is like a friend that sticks closer than a brother, like those two were it.
Mm-hmm.
And how many?
You don't think that exists?
I don't think we do it the same anymore. No.
I don't know. And maybe that's just my experience is a little bit different because I didn't. So I have a sister, like a real blood sister, and I love her to death. But I would argue that Ava is closer to me than Kimberly is. And,
I could see that. there's a little bit I know about Ava, but I don't know if you would be willing to risk Kimberly in the name of her. Like I feel like Jonathan would
But I
unalive
think it was
his daddy in the name
but it
of.
was context.
Yeah, I was about to add that. I wanted to finish. I wanted to finish the
Context. I
thought
mean,
before I
like
jumped in, but go
Saul.
ahead.
I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a lot I will go to bat for my family for, right? But if you're actively trying to kill my man, like
The
I'm at the
reason
same.
why I say that,
I'm gonna save my man.
the reason why I say that, and maybe because I'm like in my round, well, if you don't know, I love medieval shows, right? Like all about the Vikings. I'm all about those type of things, and so I'm
We know who you.
rewatching some Viking stuff. What?
We know who you and
What'd you
Courtney
say?
are. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Medieval times about to come. Anyway,
Turkey legs and yeah.
everything. But I say that to say back then, family was huge back then. Like your bloodline was huge.
Mm.
And that's Jonathan's bloodline. Like, and Saul in so many ways is like, do you understand that he about to out you? Like you about to lose whatever you supposed to get because of this. And so I get the context of like Jonathan standing for truth, but it's very unlike how they looked at family back then, especially dynasties and things of that nature. So that's where I'm coming from with it.
I got
So
you.
I will agree, Sharika, from that side of the context of David is a real and present threat to Jonathan's ascension or anything. And I think to your point that Jonathan cared more about the relationship than that. Yes, his father was being cruddy, and as Batman pointed out, Jonathan stood for truth. But I think if he started going, yo, you are really a threat to the kingdom too, and he valued that more, he could have been on the side with the father, easy, easy, easy. So I think that element does at a different levels of significance. I see where you're coming from, and that's yeah, that's real for real.
And also
Do
there's a
you have?
level of trust. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kendrick.
No, I'm saying, do you have a friend like that? Like, is there someone that's tight with you that you would?
I would oust my own brother for. Um, nah. But I think my situation is a little different. I have a really interesting relationship with my parents and my family that I hear is special in its own right.
Unusual, yes, but not unusual, but it is.
It's special in its own right, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
What do you mean?
There's just a level of closeness that I hear people don't have. I talk to my parents and my brother every day. Like I we're in a group chat with each other. Like nobody gets on a plane without saying I've boarded, and nobody gets off the plane without saying I'm landed. Right? Like there's a level of closeness that I hear a lot of people don't have. Like my brother's one of my best friends. We talk about everything. So yeah, Um, so it's special in its own right. But I think I have friends that show up in different parts of my life. I don't know if there's a constant because it's kind of hard to compete with this little four bond that we got going on here, right? Like it's pretty tight. But I think there are people that show up every so often that I could be like, oh man, they might throw some hands for the kid. I appreciate that. But I don't know if they would dethrone themselves in the name of me.
Mm. So I would say
It's
my
interesting.
Go ahead, Karen, go ahead.
No, go.
No, I was just going to reflect on my experience and say that because of how I ended up growing up, moving to Trinidad and then living with my aunt and her family, and they took me in like family. My whole family definition is a little bit broader, and it's not limited to any roles of individuals, but nor the nature of the relationship. And so I've always evaluated family on there's people who, you know, they have a title, but then there's, the family who's actually functioning like your family because of the relationships that you're having. And it wasn't just limited to blood and formal relations. And so, um, what Tarika is describing is different. It's unique in that regard because I just kind of see it differently. So that when you ask a question, Kenrick, about is there a friend like that? Yeah, I have plenty of those because that's just how the dynamic was. At least for me growing up.
Mm. I'm like Sharika. I just got my sister, my two brothers. That's everything. Like that's even how we grew up. It was just like, we ain't have no, it wasn't no going nobody house. There was none of that type of stuff going on. They say, y'all see, you see them your friends right there. That's what. So, yeah, I feel like that too. It's not. I don't think anybody could get in between us. It's four. That's it. Like, everybody else can be engrafted into the family, but nah, nah. You know what I mean?
Like I have two women who are raised with me, and I'm closer to one than another. And if you don't know them, you wouldn't know that we don't share parents, right? Um, and one lives in Maryland, and call her my sister every day, right? And to Courtney's point, she's in grad, like she's in the family, like that. That's my sister. But Yannick is Yannick, right? Like I just that's my ace boon coon all the time. Like there's a piece of jewelry that you ever see me wearing. It's the only piece of jewelry I wear because Yannick has the other piece. And that's just what we do. They had me take it off the other day. I was like, dang, I feel weird, right? But to know that Jonathan was willing to say, yo, I'm willing to put my whole line aside for you, but I also know you're going to take care of me as a result. I don't doubt that you're going to take care of me as a result. Is a very interesting relationship to me. And I think it's.
But
No, go ahead.
do do you think their sexual relationship influenced that at all?
First of all, we're not doing this today. First,
Oh,
first of all,
I'm gonna
Did she get off?
yeah. What happened?
Generally.
I was like,
She got
what?
off.
Oh my God.
God. That's why he kept saying my man. I was like, why does he keep saying my man?
I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed because what y'all not
Because
going
he
to
said
do,
when he said my
What you
man, I
not gonna
mean
do?
my man.
what we're not
I
going
know
to
you
do,
know that man. But
we're not doing
But Sharika, what you do with my love for Jonathan is better than the love for a woman. Like, what do you do with that?
So, it's interesting you said that, right? So I'm back. I'm in my Vikings
yeah,
era,
Rose before.
and there's the Viking called Ragnar and Athelstein. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about this. For context, this is for context. Ragnar is a pagan. Athelstein is a priest that he stole from a land that he raided. He was supposed to be his slave, but eventually they became friends, and he trusted his kids with Athelstein and things of that nature. Athelstein starts learning more about paganism. Ragnar starts learning more about Christianity, and they both are sharing both faiths at the same time. And Ragnar has kids. Athelstein's a priest. He ain't got no kids. And the relationship that Athelstein has with Ragnar is similar to David and Jonathan, where he loves him more than his kids. He loves him more than his wife. And when one of his friends killed him, he literally went out into the wilderness and was just like, I can't believe you left me. And he bawled and he buried his friend and he put his cross around his neck, mind you, a pagan. It was like, I will always wear this with me. And every time he dreams about his friend. Like, and Ragnar got hopes, right? Like, in kids. But there is this relationship between these opposing religious people that's very interesting dynamic that I think if you haven't seen it, Jared, you would love it.
Yeah.
And even when Ragnar gets sick, pagans pay, and he looks at they pray, and he looks at Athelstein and goes, "You pray too. Your God gets into this as well." And so when I've seen bromances like that, or even Fuhad and James, if you watch Ish and Gigs podcast, like there are bros that could really get into a tight relationship that I truly admire. That I don't think it's sexual. I think when two men can be vulnerable with each other, I can see how it can trump whatever relationship they may have with women.
Interesting. Any of you guys have relationships like that, guys?
No. I mean, I think my cousin Jarvis is probably who, like, I think that's the only dude I like spoon with, right? But he's blood. Like, it's not like
How did we get here? How did
like look at there's not a male on Earth that I would ever. There's not a
Anybody
male on
talk about
Earth
no
that I would have.
spooning? Why y'all made it into a sexual thing?
No,
It
no, that's
couldn't.
my
It couldn't
point.
have been.
There's not a, but I don't think there's. Once again, I think Western society doesn't
Yeah, it'd be
doesn't
resistant to
create
that kind of
create
connection.
space because doesn't create space for that. Like, or for instance, like here in Europe or in Spain, you get the, I don't care who it is, you do the double kiss, right? You do the, right, male, female, whatever. Like, it's just, I think there are
Courtney said
cultures
no.
that probably make room for that. What'd you say?
Courtney said,
Mm-mm.
No,
I'm
it's
just,
not. There's no tongue. It's just a kiss.
It's cheek
It's just like
cheek.
it's just a cheek. It's like cheek to cheek.
mm,
It's a little
mm,
cheeky.
mm,
Little
is it
cheeky.
air? He got to be an air cheek to cheek.
No, it is. Like
nah.
no one's
No one's putting their skin to
nobody's
skin.
putting. It's like an air kiss.
Courtney, does that
Oh,
make you feel better?
nah, I'm not.
Well,
No.
Courtney, did you watch Vikings? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't watch that one.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, yo, hey, customs for different times, different places.
So do you have any friendships with any males who fits in that category? I'm there.
Damn, it sounds like butt buddy close. I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, I got my bros. I mean, yo,
But could you say of any one of them, you were very special to me. Your love for me
First of all,
it was more wonderful than the love of women. Is there any friend that you have that you could say that of?
damn, I think I want to say it like that though. That's the thing.
But isn't
I
that
think I
the
understand the sentiment, but I want to say it like that.
But
How
isn't
about
that
you?
the
how would you
Western version of
how would you
bro?
know Diddy that phrase? How would you do that phrase?
No Diddy that joint. Yeah. Um. Hey man, like, yeah, I don't know how you would say that. Like, yo, that's my brother, and yeah, I enjoy spending time and talking and sharing with you more than I would this lady that I'm laying up next to. I mean,
Yeah, it
that's how I
doesn't have
look at it.
doesn't have the same. I don't get the same feeling from
I
that.
mean, same thing. You said the same thing.
Yeah, I just want to say like that. It's better than
It was
what
more
aspect? It's more wonderful.
Jared,
I
have you
don't know. Like you can't slap. You can't like. You gonna slap God in the face and say it's more wonderful. Nah, not more wonderful. Come on.
more wonderful than
People have died. Like wars have been fought. For things like that.
I don't
mean,
know. I'll be curious to see which of the three words for love they're using there.
about the check. But
Hey, there we go. That's what I'm trying to say. Let
it's
me know.
Hebrew, so I don't know how many words for love there are in Hebrew. I know there are at least three in Greek. But I'm gonna check it
It
out.
wasn't agape and it wasn't philia.
Second Samuel.
Anyway, but what is interesting is in the culture in the Middle East, for example.
Yeah.
So, Kenrick, to your point about the double kissing, you sometimes you would see in Western cultures, women would be like real chummy, leaning on each other. They might even walk and hold hands. In the Middle East, guys do that as well, and they're like, it's not we're the ones who have in Western culture who have kind of over sexualized everything and made it like. I mean, what was funny to me is like even in Middle Eastern cultures, they don't treat personal space the way we do. So somebody would be talking to you and they'll be like right there, and you're like, bro, seriously? But that's the cultural thing, right?
There we go.
Interestingly enough, Jerry, the word that's used for love here is closer to English love. No, it's closer to English love than the divisions that Greek has.
Okay.
It says love, a human love for a human object, of man towards man, as men towards men, as people,
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
of a man towards himself, between a man and a woman, and sexual desire. It also represents God's love to His people. So that's one word
That's
captures
way
all of
too
that,
much.
just like English love does.
Mhm.
In a way similar to
Mm,
that.
mm. So it's like, oh, this love feels as good as all of those that you just mentioned. Da, 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 da.
I said it was
Courtney,
more wonderful than the love of women.
I have a friend of mine. Who
Mm.
she talks about the love up that she receives from her friends fills her gap as far as like a love from a man. Like she's like, I don't even feel lonely. Where I'm like, yo, the two are very separate, sis. You
That's it.
really love so much.
See,
You know what I mean?
so you got to talk off the cliff. You said, come on, come back, come back, come back.
But there are people out there who
Yeah.
that love, that word is so encompassing. Like she's one of the first people that I've ever met who's just
Yeah.
like, yo, if I got all my friends, I don't even need nothing. I don't need no man. I don't need none of this. I just need my people. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Not guapo.
Come
yeah,
on,
yeah,
Batman.
yeah,
Come on, Batman.
yeah.
When,
Yeah,
when it
man.
when it
Yeah,
ro-
we're
when
not
it
holding
rolled, dog.
hands. Yeah. But like you said, it's cultural. Like I know, we give each other a dap, and then you get the little half. You like a
I
little
think the
half.
only reason we're so
Sometimes you
yeah.
get the full. Like you like, oh, we went there. Like
I guess the
full.
question I have though,
To
why
Jerry's
is that
point,
uncomfortable for
to Jerry's
why is
point,
that
we have
uncomfortable for us? Why
Western. Well,
I don't know.
I think it's to
It's like
Jerry's point.
avoiding
Western
the very
civilization
appearance of it being
has
sexual.
created. I think we've created Western civilization has created this machismo that um that does not allow for those types of affections.
You don't even want it to look like or glimpse
Right?
or even.
And well, you
Yeah,
don't see
like
it
what
anymore.
Cameron
You know,
said,
no,
I
it's
don't
just
even have a desire for it. No, it's like that dap. I'm good. I was like, man,
that's enough. That's
my
enough.
God, yeah, yeah, it feels good.
So
That's
if your
good.
if your guy friend is really emotional and crying and he needs a hug, you're not gonna hug him.
Yeah, I'll hug
When
that
would that
dude.
happen?
He said what?
What's the meaning of this? What?
Oh,
I've been,
you get at you.
I've been reading this verse
I feel
in
sorry for your friends, Courtney, because they sometimes need a hug, and you're like, nah.
They could tell me that, but
I've been
I'm,
reading
I'm
this
a pretty good
verse
friend. You can ask them.
in all the English translations, and most of them translate it as passing the love of women.
Uh huh.
The Message Bible had the most interesting rendering. It says, your
Of course it
friendship
did.
was a miracle wonder, love far exceeding anything I've known or ever hoped to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not doing that.
Um, Another one says, more remarkable on the love of women. And then one version says, better than, and then in brackets, surpassing, deeper than the love of women. So I'm trying to get a sense for what he's communicating.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What are they talking about? They're not talking about sexual act like
No, I don't
that.
believe that. But
All right,
the
cool. As long as they're not saying that. Like, I'm
no,
like,
he's talking
stop
about an
lying.
affection for him
Like, okay.
He's talking about affection.
and
Yeah.
the quality or the
Yeah, that's
depth
cool.
of the relationship.
Yeah. You can have that. You can have that for you, bro. You can have that for you, bro.
But no hugs.
What? Batman, what's going on?
Oh, he sent some emojis, but they don't know.
Oh, that's why I was like, what?
I was like, he's spelling out his emojis.
Right, I
No. The text is filtering it out and just real text.
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
I'm like, yo, Batman's serious about this. He was like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I've ever felt that for a guy. Um, um, But it might be. I mean, that might be a deficiency on my part, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I'm just thinking about my relationships.
Yeah.
I have, really good, brotherly male relationships, but I would never say it surpassed any of the girlfriends that I was really, and I've said intimacy in terms of, just how much we shared and how much we were together, and that level of intimacy. I would never say it would surpass any of them. So
Mm.
but
I always
love
wonder.
is difficult for me to quantify anyway. Love, I don't know what that is. Like it's I don't know what
Yeah.
I don't know the difference between 10 loves and 5 loves.
Right.
And so
Right.
quantifying love has always been very, very difficult for me.
Right.
Jerry, you never answered the question. You have any relationships? Sorry.
At present,
It's
no.
all good, Jerome.
No,
Nobody
at
else is
present,
watching.
I
That would judge you.
Everybody's up there splitting. Oh my
You
god.
can't hear him. I can't hear him. I can't hear him. Sorry. Go ahead, Jerry.
I do remember brother, and
Mhm.
I mean, if I had to donate a kidney to somebody, it would be him.
Mm-hmm.
Probably vice versa.
So you wouldn't do that for a girlfriend? May I say this way? Any girlfriends in your
Huh?
life that you would say, nah, she ain't getting a kidney?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay.
They ain't getting kidney. They can't listen. They can't even see me. Yet, but
Okay, well think of the one you liked the most and you had to pick between the two of them.
Hey man, bros for life. That's all I know.
yeah, but you see, I think that's just looking at
All
probably
you're
just
saying all of his friends, they all need kidneys?
No, for the one he said that they would trade kidneys or give each other's kidneys. I said I need him to think of the girl he's liked the most and put her next to this guy who's getting the kidney. And he froze conveniently.
Right.
is keeps
Pondering.
passing out. I think the
Pondering.
context
Pondering.
David is talking is the faithfulness of the friendship, right?
Right.
I feel like that oh boy. the fact that Jonathan is willing to, let's be real, Jonathan is willing to unalive his dad for David. Eve wasn't even willing to say no to eating a fruit for Adam. So David is saying he has a relationship with somebody who will put him above even themselves.
Ah.
By contrast, most women will not put a man above themselves.
Yeah, but I don't think that eating the
Adam
apple
and
was
Eve, right?
about.
Psychologists have even said women who are in abuse because they think they deserve it. So it's not even about it. So he's saying, I found
Jerry,
someone who will put me above himself, his family, everything. That is a different level of love that he hasn't experienced even with a woman. Yeah.
So I'll share this little I'll share this little experience that I had listening to a radio show in Trinidad. It's called the Breakfast Party, with Jaiga and Rodi and Nikki Crosby, right? And they had a show where their show is called Mars versus Venus, right? Talking about relationship dynamics and whatnot. And in this particular episode, they were talking about if you had a relationship with somebody, significant other, and you got an opportunity to pursue your lifelong career dream, but it would cause you to have to leave the significant other, would you do it? Right? In the time that they were on, about 80 to 90% of the men who called said, nah, they would forego their dream to stay with this chick.
Yep, I remember that.
100% of all the women who called into that show said, "Peace, I gotta find our next man." With
Facts
that
on
backdrop,
facts on facts.
your statement makes a whole lot more sense.
I am so surprised by the results.
100% of the women said, "Yeah, peace, brother, I gone." 100%.
So
Well, a young Christopher Brown told me
Now, granted, it wasn't a big sample size.
that these pros,
Ain't
they're not
loyal.
loyal. They're not loyal. That's what he said.
Not
know.
Christopher. Not Christopher. What are we?
the Christopher.
What are we doing? Where are we today?
Oh my God.
Not the Christopher. Not the. You know what's funny? I think
I
it
don't
depends
know.
on. It depends on where you are in your life. I think it really depends on where
Yeah.
you are in your life, right? Like,
Mm.
I think,
100%.
and your experiences, right? Like,
First of all, we live in a culture where women are expected to leave whatever desires or things they want to go after for their counterpart. So that's why a lot of women are resistant to doing said things.
But I don't.
Because that's
I
the
don't think that's- I don't-
expectation for you to be under your man's whatever. Like if he's going this way and yours is that way, you go this way. That's the expectation for
The
women.
expectation of who though, Lauren? Because the majority of
For women. They
Right,
don't
but-
do it. I'm not saying they do it. I'm saying that's the expectation. You're
right, but the
supposed
expectation of
women.
Who's putting that expectation on them?
or the
Themselves?
expectation
Other
from
women?
It's just how a lot of women are raised. If you go backwards, not so much now, but when you go backwards, that's what you were raised to do.
But who is raising you and putting that expectation on you? Was it their fathers or their mothers?
Both.
That's
The
interesting.
expectation was you supposed to be in the kitchen. You shouldn't even have no
I-
juniors to be going
That's
after.
I hear you, but I would respectfully
So
disagree that expectation wasn't being set by
That's
fathers.
okay.
We leave that.
That is all right.
Go ahead, Kenneth.
Well, I guess my thing. I think to Sharika's point. So I will say from my experience, many of the women that I know, I don't think have that perspective.
Mhm.
What perspective?
And I'm and
What perspective?
the perspective that they would
Leave the guy
they
and
would
get
be
the
willing
job.
to give up. They would be willing to give up relationship or man or whatever for
For
this
once in a
particular career
lifetime?
choice.
For once in a lifetime
I don't.
opportunity?
I'm just saying women that I
The
know.
ones you know. Mhm.
I'm very confident that they would not. Right. I know my mother wouldn't because she didn't. I know my wife wouldn't. I know those things. Right. I know my sister wouldn't. And so I think to Sharika's point. So I also have this biased opinion that most women that call in the shows fit a particular profile. Right. So
That's what I said. That's what I was saying.
So
It was a small sample size.
Everybody that calls in the Kevin Samuel show was like, we already know what that was, right? And so I think that already fits the profile, and you're probably going to get 100% of them to say that because I think it's that, right? But I'm just saying from my experience. I'm not saying there's no one does it. I'm not saying a lot of people do it. I'm saying from my experience, I would say, I mean, my mom was talking to me. She had a chance to go and take an executive job for Exxon in Saudi Arabia when I was a kid, and she didn't do it.
Wait, Kendrick. You were around and a kid, yes?
What's that again?
You were around and a kid when.
Well,
she
I'm saying,
had the-
I could go back and say even before. I'm saying even before then, when it came to love, right? When it came to my dad and all these different things, like it was a pattern of she was looking for, there was a relationship there that was. I was just using me as a kid, just from a relationship standpoint, not because I'm her kid.
No. I was saying that it make more sense if she would
right?
turn
But it was
down the
my dad,
opportunity.
and there were certain things that she wasn't
Okay.
going to do, and so I think all of these different things kind of play. So yeah, I don't know if that fits the profile of, nor do I believe that it necessarily has to be a choice, right? So for instance, I think, is there a role where I, being the love, the person was like, yeah, yo, go chase that. Let's go chase that, right? I think all of those things kind of exist or can exist. So I wouldn't say, I don't think all women kind of fit that profile.
No, so I would first of all say 100% of the women called in don't mean it's 100% of all women, and I don't want to make that clear. I was just talking about the people who called into the show, but I was saying it was a significant, it was a significant representation of a mindset that I could better see what Jerry was saying
Correct.
because of the existence of that dynamic. It's entirely possible that of all the women that David dealt with, none of them would have made the same kind of sacrifice that that Jonathan is making. Um, and so that's really why I referenced it, to say that that mindset makes more sense in light of this other thing. So
Correct. And then women's roles back then were a lot different. Like it wasn't, I think the expectations of a wife or was is far different than what we expect today, or what is at least created as a goal to be today.
so if he's had all these relationships with women who just before him because he's the king and giving him everything that he wants, those relationships probably didn't even have the same kind of depth anyway.
Correct. But so at the end of the day, like how many, and I don't know, but I'm curious to know how many women or men married out of love,
Yeah,
or
that's what
established
I was
relationships
agreeing with you. Yeah,
out of love back then,
no, you're right.
And so the bar might have been really low.
No,
The man might have been starving for love.
I also think it depends. Even if we want to fast forward it to now,
Yes.
depending on the type of person you are. Like, I don't have a dream job. What the heck is that?
Really,
I don't.
it was more of an
You're,
opportunity of a lifetime rather
you're
than a
living your
dream
dream.
job.
Am I?
Let's
Anyway, but I say that to say,
Don't wake up. Don't wake up.
I say that to say, depending on where you are in your life and the value system that you have, you can always. I think there's a time in my life where I would say, yeah, career is everything. And I think I'm slowly at a point in my life where I'm like, yeah, it'd be great to find a right companion, right? Like somebody. I look at my grandparents, and they've been best of friends since they were like 8. It's a scary love, but I think it's a beautiful thing. And so, money come, money go, But
So the way they had framed it, Sharika, was less about job and more about once in a lifetime opportunity for something that was really important to you, whatever it was.
no. But what I'm saying, Jared, is I think finding the right love is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you felt like you found that right love, and I've heard, I'm not a man or identifying as a man, that it's harder for men to find this love, right? And so if you found that, I can see why it's like, yo, I'm Gucci. Like this is it. But to Lorraine's point, there are a lot of women who are raised to feel like they're incomplete without marriage, and so they look forward to the marriage or the wedding versus the relationship. So when asked that type of question, it's like, yeah, I'm going that way because I
You
can
could always get another one.
I can do this over and over and over again because in most cases, society told me I'm behind. So I sat down and I did it. Versus most men are raised to believe they got forever. So they make, in most cases, they try to make a better choice or they take longer to make their choice, right? So I think it depends on what you value as once in a lifetime.
Correct. Yeah, and I guess that's what they were trying to evaluate, like once in a lifetime relationship versus once in a lifetime job opportunity. Which one you're taking? And because they did set up this,
and I
did set
don't
up the
know
relationship
why.
as the person is everything you ever want in a person. You have that person, and then this
Yeah, but
opportunity
when
presents
you,
itself. What do you do?
so
It's
my
like
thought was,
I
if
guess
you
why does it
get
have to
that
be a zero?
person,
Why is it zero sum game?
Because
right? I would say if you get that person,
radio
you
talk
get
show.
the other thing too.
It's a radio
well,
talk show.
not necessarily. You can get the other person still be
Yeah.
broke. Let's be very clear.
Well,
Um,
yeah, but you can still bet. Well, we would hope.
no, you can still be broke. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna tell you this from this. I'm gonna tell you right now. I don't look good broke, right? Like I don't feel good broke. I don't look good broke. It's not for me. It's not something that I like to do in my life. It's not my ministry, right? And so if you're telling me that I have to trade, like it's just not.
Oh my
But anyway, let's not do that. What I'm saying, what I'm saying is, ah, what I'm saying is, life is about experiences, and I've always heard people say, like, you'll hear the Kevin Harts, you'll hear the Ludacris, you'll hear Jay-Z, you'll hear all of them talk about, like, when you have and you have no one to spend it with and you have no one to share this with, it's whack. Like, it's whack up there to be
There's
like,
always
yeah,
there's always somebody to spend it with.
no, I said share. I didn't say spend. I said share.
Oh, sorry.
Because everybody get throw money.
I thought you said
right?
spend.
No. Just share it with. I'm sorry, Lorraine. I'm just talking the truth. You know what I mean? And it's lonely up there. Some of the happiest people I know are living regular lives, and some of the most miserable people we know are lonely and rich, right?
And
Once
rich,
in a lifetime,
that
in
is
the once
not
in a
enough.
lifetime opportunities.
I know some
That
happy
is
rich
not
people.
enough. It's not enough, man.
Well, I don't
feel
know
like
if it's,
everybody gets to a
not,
point where you realize that is not enough.
I don't know if it's
Which
I don't know if it's not enough, Lorraine. I'm gonna hold you. I'm not gonna hold you. I don't know if it's not enough. But what I
It's
will say
not.
is, what I will say is, I know very happy rich people, and I know very miserable rich people
By themselves.
by themselves. Very happy rich people by themselves, and very miserable people by themselves.
Are they also honest? I'm joking.
No. I think there are some people out there don't desire some things.
Hey man, they can have a lot of people around them. That don't mean that they could be surrounded by people. They can have a lot of people come in and out, and they're actively doing whatever,
Rich people are always
taking
surrounded by
trips
people.
or whatever. Yeah, but that don't mean that they're not lonely still. That's what she. I think that's what
That's
Sharika
what
trying
I'm
to say.
saying.
Like they could.
Like, it's not enough.
Nah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
So
just, it all depends on your value system.
Okay.
What have you experienced? What have you value? Like people always tell you, when you make your first 100,000, you realize it ain't that much money. When you make your first 200,000, you realize it's not that much money. You know, and it takes a lot of money for it to be like, oh, that's enough money, right? And so it, you really depends on your value system.
Hey man, Water for the Thirsty taught me that it's about this social thing that we're doing here. This give and take with people that you're around, these relationships. Um, I think we're all wired that way as much as we try to fill it with a bunch of other stuff. What's going to be the most fulfilling? Yeah, it's going to be that connection with. It don't have to be just the opposite sex, but just
Right.
with another human being, someone that you're, what Jared say, acquainted. He said, doing life. Just doing life together, and it's just like, yeah, it's a real thing. Like
but are there
you can't
examples in
even
the
get a
Bible?
dog and do that, or a cat, or anything. Like there's something about someone that they can relate to that can feel the same thing they're feeling, experience the same stress, anxieties, or fears. They can laugh about the same thing, or whatever the case is. It's just different. And then when, even if you achieve, I think it's even more fulfilling to achieve with someone, or besides someone, when you didn't have it before. And then you're like, you were there with me watching me build this up, and the falls and the climbing back up, and now it's like it feels like something. You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, remember when?
Mm.
Look at this now. That's a different feeling.
Kendrick, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was saying, are there? I think it's something we talk about now and we encourage now, but are there biblical examples of those type of relationships outside of, we see it with David and Jonathan, right? I was trying to remember like what was a man woman relationship, husband wife, concubine, like whatever. What was a relationship back then in the Bible that kind of fits what it is that we're talking about in today's society or today's standard? Because I don't think people focused on that.
No, the only person who kind of had that kind of affection for somebody was Jacob for Rachel.
Rebecca,
I'm not even sure Rachel.
Rachel,
But I'm not even sure Rachel reciprocated. I'm not 100% sure that she reciprocated. But I don't recall, and maybe there's another one that I forget, but I don't recall a mutual exchange like that. I guess maybe the next one would be Abraham and Sarah, maybe.
But Sarah was willing to have other,
but it was
other men
never.
run up on her.
But yeah, you're right, Sharika. You're right.
Yeah,
That's like the next closest one that quickly comes to mind.
Debbie screaming something in the other room about Sarah, but give me a second. Let me go figure out what she's saying.
Run through.
But I don't think any of the stories that are told, they were told with that in mind. So maybe there are people and the stories didn't get told. But in light of the stories that have been told, I can't.
But I guess my thing is like,
yeah, the stories told in the Bible. That's what I'm saying. Oh, sorry, I lost connection.
No, my connection's going bad tonight. But
Yeah.
because it didn't get told doesn't mean it's not important.
No, I said doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah, just because it didn't get told in the scripture doesn't mean
Highlighted or in the story.
it didn't exist.
But does that mean? I guess my thing is like there were important things told.
The points that were being told, yes, there were things that are important and things that are told, but they were making different types of points. It's just, yeah.
I would say Samson thought Delilah loved him. That's another one. He thought it.
Yeah.
If read out of context, you would think it. If read out of context,
maybe Boaz and Ruth. Maybe Boaz and Ruth.
Maybe, yeah. That's probably the closest. Yeah,
maybe.
Still,
that man, you coming at everybody
still
tonight.
paints it that way. Like it's like they still wanted something though, right? Not tripping.
Who's that?
With Courtney.
They still want something.
What are you talking about?
In Boaz's case.
So Naomi wanted something. I don't saw that Ruth wanted. I mean, I don't even know that she know what she wanted.
Oh, folks, this is what Debbie said. Mary and Joseph, ain't nobody gonna sleep in that darn inn if they didn't love each other. That's what she said.
Stop it.
Yeah, it's true.
Mary and Joseph, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, because
Hey, you take up somebody's next picnic, and you don't even know where you come
Yeah,
from.
take this secret baby.
tell her she's a virgin.
That's just
She making baby.
obedience, dog. That's just obedience.
Mhm.
That's obedience.
Look at this cat from just came out on Club Shay Shay this week talking about his wife had multiple other guys as kids and they stayed with her. And social media has been like, you're an idiot. I'm just saying, like,
Multiple guys'
these are
kids
things
while they were together.
yeah.
Oh, I had another point, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
It depends, man.
He said, hey man, love, right?
Yo, I'm not gonna yuck on another man's yum that everybody else.
Oh, the bishop's words.
Oh, so there's the couple in Songs of Solomon. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
they might be the next.
I think that was lust.
That was lust. Yeah.
Definitely lust.
Yeah. Your breasts are twins.
They were admiring bodies.
Yeah, that's yeah, that was lust.
Infatuation. Can we go with infatuation over?
No, lust. My man was describing titties.
That was all
lust.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lust.
No, yeah, I can't. Like the other one is Jesus and the church, but the church don't really love him like that, do they?
If you're going Jesus in there, you got
but
Hosea in there
point.
and Gomer, and you don't want Gomer in there because she was a hoe, and you can't turn her hoe into a housewife. Hoes don't act right. You know what I mean?
Kendrick, you were saying?
They say it.
There's actually nothing else to be said. I think she said everything that needs to be said.
They say, man.
That's what they say. That's what they say. You know what I mean?
It's a full disclaimer. You know, they say it, not us. We're not saying that. So.
But as Kendrick said, we're never yucking anyone's yum. You know what I mean? So it is what it is.
So I will say before we transition, Sharika, just as a closing thought, just to tie it up, this conversation has helped me better appreciate what David was saying to Jonathan, because maybe the bar wasn't as high as we have been setting it, given what his context was.
Absolutely.
And if that is the truth, then I quickly understand why he would say that, because it's way more meaningful, way more intimate, more reciprocal, than anything he may have experienced, just because of the nature of the way those relationships went. Yeah. Adding that context helps to make it make more sense. So thank you for allowing us to process that out so that we could, at least better appreciate it. All right, Sharika.
Where did David get an army from?
What do you mean?
David and his men were hanging out. Where did they come from?
He picked up a band of
just a bunch of different dudes he picked up.
Yeah, over time.
A bunch of stragglers?
Let's see if I can find where it is, because they outlined his 30, and maybe it might be in Chronicles. But David was he started drawing all these people to him.
So I always thought they were people who were either stragglers that kind of just were random dudes that were out there, as well as defections from the army.
I imagine, like, even with Sharika, like we were talking about medieval times, like how you meet people on the way, throughout life, like you make connections and then you meet another person and then they get, just builds up. They have like this crew.
Yeah, it's like Robin Hood or something.
Yeah,
that's what I imagine.
Oh.
I wonder if those people knew that David was going to be king. Why would I follow this guy, potentially die, fighting, if he ain't got nothing?
Because of who
he
was.
He was going to be king.
He's a good man.
Because he told you, and he was good. What are y'all saying right now?
No, let's be fair.
Yeah,
David was working for Saul for a long time, and he used to be in the army with Saul, and he gained the notoriety as a general in Saul's army, which is part of the reason why Saul was jealous of him, because they started singing songs about him.
Yeah, he having tens of thousands, and David.
So he was popular because of his association with Saul and his prowess in the army. Plus, he was notorious because of the whole Goliath thing. That story followed him from my boy, right? So when Saul started to try and kill him and he started to run away, there were people who, started to move with him as a result of that.
Yeah, it was just weird to me how it's just like David and his men. Like, where these gang of people come from?
Hey man, they heard about him for years. They're like, yo,
people
ask about me.
You are him.
You were him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even if I said you were him, Courtney, would I fight for you?
Yeah.
Like you said in those days, yeah. In those days, yeah.
But to what would you win though? Like, what are we winning? Like, This is what I'm trying to understand. Like, we did
Honor.
because not honor. David had opportunities to kill Saul, to dethrone him,
Yeah.
and he didn't, right? And so for the average person, it's like, why don't you just knock him out and take over? Like, I'm still trying to understand. I think it's a bit.
And this dude, because the thing is, like, they knew he wasn't afraid to kill, because Bama killed everybody. So they knew he wasn't afraid. So maybe just the fact that he didn't do it out of respect
Respect.
for, kind of created like this. Man, this dude is
It's right.
he is that guy.
Batman, I was gonna say something else, but thugs work. There's another word that I was gonna use.
You,
You know what I mean?
we all know what that word is. Yeah, I'm trying to.
I was intrigued by that. I also was.
Maybe they were
Trying to
paid
find-
too, right? You think they got some paid them? If you're looking at just medieval warfare overall, will show that there was.
I guess here's the question I have that came to mind as well. When David is complaining in Psalm about being in the wilderness, sometimes is there any of the Psalm related to when Saul was chasing him?
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so
You can have that label. Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, he was like, "Yo, God, take out my enemies." You know what I mean? I'm trying to live my life here. I think it's interesting that we know David can kill and kills all the time, but he's very I think it was the definition of kill and murder, the definition between or the difference in between killing and murdering. David exemplified that. Like I felt like that became very clear.
So no, he used to murder. But he used to murder on behalf of other people, and he used to murder for sport, in that he was killing people to feed himself. So he would rob the people and then kill them so nobody would know. Let me see if I can find the verses about that. But yeah.
Yeah, he would kill, and so nobody would know.
And he was living with the
and
Philistines.
come
Then
back
they would
home.
ask him, "So what did you do today?" And he said, "Oh, we just kind of whatever." And what they was doing was going to villages, taking the people's stuff.
Yeah, they're raiding. It's a raid.
Yeah, they was killing them and leaving them.
I'm telling you guys, now that we're reading this, you definitely should watch Vikings. It'll make a lot of sense.
Mhm.
And one of the stories that highlights David's David would kill on behalf of other people, but not to defend himself, was that the story with Abigail. Is Abigail is her name?
Yeah,
And Nabal.
and Nabal.
Yeah, when Nabal disrespected him, he strapped on his sword and went to deal with him, and Abigail kind of, hold him to hold strain, and he then like, yeah, thank you for doing that, because otherwise I would have, dealt with this a certain kind of way.
And then he killed him and took his wife. I was just like, this Bama is.
No, he died. He
I'm
died,
saying, well, he died. He died. He didn't kill him.
and he took his
died,
wife. Yes,
and then he took his wife. Yes.
correct. I'm reading through the story here, Sharika. He had 1,000 men that was assigned to him, and then Saul tried to kill him. And I think many of those under his unit moved with him when he ran away. Yeah.
Unlike Gladiator.
That makes sense.
And when his sons tried to kill him, he could have ride for them. His men were so formidable that if he wanted to take them on, he could have, dealt with that. But he opted to run away from them as well. So part of when he was saying people were trying to kill him was when Saul was trying to kill him for however many years before Saul died, and then when his son was chasing him as well.
Did he take his wife out of love? Man, he ain't love none of them.
Why he sent for Abigail? Nah. Then he said he also married another Ahinoam of Jezreel. So he had two.
He
but
knocked
then
off
Saul-
Bathsheba because she was cold.
Yeah. And then Saul took back took back his
Michael.
yeah, he took that one back. He said, nah, So, hey,
Yeah, so it seems that 600 of the 400 men followed him. That's 1 Samuel 27 at the very least. And that's where he was robbing people, um, and burning them down and killing them.
That's crazy. So yeah, those just so most of those just defections.
that sounds about right.
But Batman, they were thugs, man. Them dudes, they got it in.
It was on the third day David has been around at Ziklag. The Amalekites attacked people in the Negev. They attacked in Ziklag and burned. And they captured all the women and everything in Ziklag. And they had taken the prisoners. Yeah, they didn't kill them. They take them away. They reached Ziklag. And, this is when the Philistines attacked them and took their women.
Yeah.
And then they ran looking for them. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that helps to answer your question, but
No, it does. Thank you for that.
there's a lot of people to be responsible for and feed in the wilderness, their wives and their families, and just
But that's my point. Like the amount of trust that these people have in David, they must have felt like something was coming next.
well, yeah. So part of it is they had this experience with him, right? They were a part of his 1,000-man unit that was serving under him. So when you serve under somebody, you get to see their leadership style, you get to see their concern, you get to see their charisma. And I think I don't believe it was any secret that he was anointed king, by Samuel as a child. Like I'm sure that story was, told.
Which
At
is
least
one of
I'm
the reasons
sure.
why Saul was going after him.
Yeah, and then it was no secret that God was rejected Saul, and I don't think that was a secret either. So yeah, many of them may have been holding on for that time.
Yep.
Alright.
Yep.
Sure, you had anything else there?
No, I think I was more fascinated with the relationship, but I'm thankful for just dissecting that.
I was so in Mark 11, what I guess the one thing that kind of stood out was that when Jesus clears the temple out, they were actually selling things that were required they weren't like selling wares, right? It's not like it was a flea market. They were actually selling items specifically for sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an observation. I was like, man, like you could literally be doing something within the temple for the temple, the purposes of the temple, and it still
Wasn't for the
offends.
temple, Kenrick.
It was for the
It's
sacrifices.
yeah. So it's these men were like scalpers outside the concert, scalping tickets. They,
Really?
yeah. So a lot of these things that people needed for the sacrifice, they were supposed to bring on their own. And these people say, "Hey, don't worry to bring your own. You could just come and buy it here." And they were making money. Like if you go back to the commands in the in Leviticus and whatnot about what's supposed to happen. People supposed to be bringing these offerings, and these people set up shop outside the thing and were making money off of people trying to do their thing. And while it may seem like a convenience, it really wasn't. It was going against what the whole purpose of the thing is.
Got
Right.
you. So when they're saying, so these were. Well, I
Opportunists.
assumed there was always. I assumed it's always like if you didn't have goats, you would go and buy a goat, right, or a dove, or whatever it is that you're sacrificing the requirement, right? So the people they were always making money doing it.
I'm sure, but I'm sure these people were also busting people's head and raising the prices high. I'm sure it was not a fair business practice that was happening there either.
So was he doing it because of that, or was he doing it because of the physical location of where they were doing it?
I think it might be a combination because they turned it into a market.
Yeah. And remember, they weren't just selling things there, Jared. They were selling people too. So you had temple prostitutes.
They're selling people?
I mean, they were wilding out. They were literally wilding out. It's like, go to church, but
but where do we
get your
that?
shine on, I guess,
It only
before you
says
do
selling
it.
animals for sacrifices.
So that part I'm not sure. I'm not sure,
Everything,
but
and the challenge was in the oh gosh, what is this guy? Is Josephus, who was time, and he would there was actually a lot of overlap between a lot of things he was writing about and what the disciples were actually writing about. I remember my dad sharing with me, just how crazy things.
Yes, the writings of Josephus were contemporary.
Had gotten. It showed the hypocrisy of the Pharisees and Sadducees talk about picking corn or whatever they were, passing through the fields on a Sabbath, but then
Who's the dude? What's his name?
Josephus.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a Jewish guy named Josephus who wrote about the destruction of the temple and some other things that was contemporary writings of that time so the temple was maybe like 50 years after Jesus was. It was AD 70 when the temple was destroyed. So let's call it 50 years between Jesus and when the temple actually got burned. But you can assume that it was contemporary enough to be so that the things that are happening at it when the temple actually get destroyed aren't too far off from what was happening at the time of Jesus.
Got you. And Jerry, you're saying that so what he was saying was that it wasn't just animal sacrifices, it was people and what?
Yeah, by that time they had gotten pretty corrupt. So they were, they were selling pretty much everything and anybody, and it's like full blown, almost like an open air market in the red light district or something. And it's either in the court, and it's like, well, you're allowing this as a Pharisee or Sadducee. There are things you're allowing or overlooking, but then if
yeah, this is the complete
people, there you go. But
sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
No, that's interesting. I gotta read that dude then.
No. I can send you a link to get this complete works because he documents a lot of things. He was a historian, a Jewish historian.
Got you.
And he wrote, he wrote some stuff from the titles of his chapters from the creation to the death of Isaac and then whatnot. And then he has more of the contemporary stuff from the 10 tribes to Cyrus to the Alexander the Great, from Herod to the temple, the departure of Jews from Babylon, the war of the Jews, all of that good stuff. To where the temple was, the fall of the temple. But just going from let's take Josephus, put him aside. What you see in Mark though is maybe you had people originally who would help out other people who didn't have by selling things that people needed. Over time, based on what what's being described here, over time it became a whole market in the temple.
I got you.
Right, which that's because Jesus said, my house shall be called a house of prayer. It's no longer a handful of people or people just helping out other people, but it was like now a whole market inside the temple.
Got you.
Everybody and their mother was now trying to capture on it, or it was becoming more they're setting up stalls, permanent, I wouldn't say permanent infrastructure, but it was no longer a respectful, worshipful scene supporting the worship that was happening. It was now primarily a market.
Gotcha.
Because that's what capitalism does.
Yeah.
Easy.
One lemonade stand has become a whole supermarket. A whole shopping center from a lemonade stand. Oh, get your lemonade and get a sandwich.
Supply and demand, man.
Yeah. And now we had to create space next to the lemonade stand for, the sandwiches.
And I mean, if you're selling lemonade and sandwiches, paper napkins, cups, that is a whole. Then you have to clean up after yourself.
So where the prostitutes come in? That's the one I'm like, I don't know how you go from.
That's because you wanted cake. You may not want sandwiches. You might want cake.
You don't want to eat sandwiches by yourself? We could get eat sandwiches with you.
I gotta pay for the sandwiches and pay somebody to eat them with me? Jeez.
How bad do you want the company, man? Capitalism, people pay for everything.
Jared, who was it? Was it not Samuel's? What was that priest in the Old Testament and his sons were spazzing out and doing stuff like that and like trying to get drunk off the who?
Eli and his sons. Mm-hmm. Who Samuel used to live with.
Yeah, them dudes got it in.
Mm-hmm.
They got it in.
Cameron, anything else you got there?
Nope. I think that was it. Thanks for the clarification.
So check it in the language here. It's written that my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den for robbers. Which means that there was extortion and, it's like the gas station in DC versus the one in Upper Marlboro. Or the one right off the exit versus the one farther inside by the exit. You extort people when they have demands, So yeah. All right. Well, we talked about a number of things. Where are you going home with today? Jerry, we'll start with you and come back around.
Ooh. Greater love hath no man than this, than he laid down his life for a friend. And I
Make
think
that connection for me.
Connection still spazzing out.
No, say make the connection between that statement and what we talked about.
Yeah, I was just going back to what Sharika was saying, where we don't really have friendships like that anymore, right? And I think it's looking at the story of David and Jonathan, that level of faithfulness or fidelity in a friendship, I think that's something for me to look at, being better at, something to work on. Yeah. Maybe it's just still too much a case of pride being in the way and what this one would think, or I don't know. But I mean, I'd like to think if Jared, like if you needed a kidney
You'd
And I
like
got
to
a good one, then hey.
hope somehow when the time's to come to pull them trigger, people just disappear. So
Oh, of course. Yes. Simple
Karen?
thing, like even if you're in hospital, everybody's like, but yeah, I think for me that's something for me to think about and to work on.
Good. I appreciate that. Karen?
Um, I think my main takeaway tonight is that there are, um, I think it's that question and that Sharika answered in your initial question. It's just how I would have never made the connection for the between David and Saul, right? And I think they're you know although I think you could probably look at it several different ways. I think it's a very interesting connection, and there's probably so many of those things that exist in the Bible that we haven't realized. That sheds light on you know I guess to your I think one of your points was like how it just humanizes people, right? And creates a little bit of a more of a connection that we
Mm-hmm.
can kind of grasp onto. And so I thought that was interesting.
Cool. Cool. Lauren?
Um, the question you asked when I came in, um, about like our posture, um, it reminds me of a series that David Asterix did called "A Friend of God."
Mm.
It's like a series at Oakwood that they have on YouTube, where he was basically talking about how each of us individually, like we were talking about the context that affects our posture and the awareness, obviously, as God, but the clear awareness he has of the context at which we come to him. And
Mm.
he has like that understanding that um, knowing what approach is best based on your context, right? Like, yes, there are universal things, yes, there are similarities, but each of our relationships are different, right? And even we're talking about who would pick their friend over their bloodline. Well, he picked us.
Mm.
Um, and so it's like that friendship that I see you, I know where you're coming from, and I choose you anyways, regardless. Um, that's kind of what's rolling around
Wow.
in my brain.
Wow. That's powerful. Thank you, Lauren. Were you, Courtney?
Following that, I don't have anything as deep. I think it was just, I'm just saying, that's tough. This is the thing I never really thought about that initial question. Really considering the the role that I guess you would say a family rank position, so forth, would play into someone's adherence to God's authority in a sense. I never really considered that, but just I thought it was just interesting. I'm glad that that led to a lot of other conversations, but that one was the one that I was just like, huh, okay, like that's pretty good. I never thought about that. It does have an effect, I'm sure. And again, just for me, my own experience with siblings, I think we all related to authority differently. So it's, yeah, I'm sure that that plays a interesting role. So yeah, that was my thing. That's what I'm going to continue to think about. Um, Maybe even other stories, other families, um, obviously top of my mind, something like maybe even like, Joseph, I think from that point, I guess he was considered the baby for a while, and how that played into his relationship or perspective of God and so forth.
I'm sorry, Courtney.
Oh, what's up?
Batman added an extra thing to his. As I was queuing up Batman's comments, getting ready to bring them in after Sharika, he
Yeah.
added an extra one that just took me up.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna share it in a little bit,
Oh, okay. Bad.
but no, I appreciate your takeaway.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Sharika,
Um, mine is more on like, what depth of love are we missing out on because of our inability to be vulnerable or to be in connection with each other in that way? Just kind of something to think about.
you're right. You're right. Jerry gave me my takeaway, um, which really is a reminder of the importance of context. Like we come to sometimes these scriptures with our modern day mindsets and try to make sense of them. And as we stripped away our mindsets and went, well, what was happening there? And we were able to quickly come to, oh, I better understand where he was coming from. So that reminder of the context that helped me to appreciate that whole statement of love and the greater depth of love um, was powerful to me. That specific application of using context was powerful because it helped me to understand that. But the takeaway is, if you had started there, we probably would have been able to answer that question a lot faster. So remember the importance of context. All right. Batman says, aspire to be a man after God's own heart in a way that we really connect. And his second takeaway is the feminist movement ruined the family. But
Hey.
that's his takeaway. That's his takeaway.
I need you to go fight. Go fight for the Knicks right now, Batman.
Hey, man. The Cape Crusader, does all the dirty work. Appreciate him.
You should come on and pray, Batman. That's what you should come and do. Don't pray to close us out.
All right.
Pray for the family and all of that. All right. Anybody want to volunteer to pray for us tonight?
I'll pray. It's fine.
All right. Thank you, Bishop.
Dear Heavenly Father, and thank you for another water for the thirsty. Thank you for allowing us to gather. I ask that you let the words that we talked about today really resonate with us, resonate how we think about being a person of your own heart, resonate how we look at our friendships, resonate in how we even unknowingly may desecrate the house of God in some ways that we're like, man, I didn't mean that, or I didn't expect that, or maybe I did. And I just ain't trying to get unalived. Who knows? But I'm asking you, please help us to continue to dig in your word, even though this is our 10th time reading it over. We always seem to get more as we grow. So I thank you for the fellowship. I thank you for the union. And I ask that you please bless everyone that's here and all the families that watch. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for that. All right. It's May 17th, and May has a fifth Friday. So we aren't going to be here in 2 weeks. We're going to be here in 3 weeks on June 7th. So look forward to having those conversations. Feel free to join us if you'd like to join us. Feel free to bring your insights from your readings if you'd like to do that. And if you don't already have a copy of the reading plan, download it from the App Store, Google Play, and read along with us. All right. Until next time, enjoy the extra week and see you on June 7th. Drink up.
Drink up.